Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm Victor Smith. This is the first of a two-part special on Blessed Emperor Charles of Austria. We will have a surprise guest for you next week. Stay tuned to our social media platforms next Friday for more details. I am joined today by Charles York and Aidan Hallberg. William Stout had a family get-together, and John Arness is, well, I suppose he's MIA. So we are going to be slowly discussing the legacy of Kaiser Karl. Of course, as we all know, he was the last emperor of Austria, died 100 years ago on this day, April 1st, 1922. He was probably the best model for an emperor we could have had in the modern day. He was granted so many privileges, including having the Blessed Sacrament in his home when he was in exile in Portugal, among a great multitude of other things. But first, we have some breaking news from earlier today from FIFA. Our national team has been placed in Group B of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Our opponents will be England, Iran, as well as the winner of the three-team playoff between Scotland, Wales, and Ukraine. The game against England will be on Black Friday, because the World Cup is in November because of how hot it gets in Qatar. That's enough of that. Let us get back to Blessed Emperor Charles of Austria. And now we will turn it over to Aidan Hallberg. Aidan.
Hello. I wasn't expecting it to get turned over to me, but yeah, the absolute hostility that the modern world has for monarchs, such to the point that they will subject them to almost unlivable conditions where they literally will die of disease. I don't know what does.
It sure was a crime. Actually, he was 34. Hate to get the mild correction, but
He was
no,
young, is my point.
yeah, he was young, and I mean the whole after finishing reading Purgatory, explained by the Lives and Legends of the Saints, there is I guess one bit of comfort out of it. I mean, we all know he's in heaven, but apparently, at least it's a theory that the reason why people are allowed sickness before death is it's a time that you can offer that suffering to God in order to expiate your sins, to thereby shorten or mitigate completely your time in purgatory. So that is consolation. Of course, he was a very holy emperor, regardless. And his death, his last words were, "Yes, yes, as you will it, Jesus." And he died with holy names on his lips. So,
I've heard other last words attributed to him.
really, such as?
Yeah. I would have to remember specifically, but I believe the words that I heard that were his last words were him literally telling his wife that he loves her and his children, which,
Oh,
I wouldn't say boring for last words, but certainly the classic last words
well,
of someone.
yeah. Just I don't know the way that his entire life was. I mean, I unfortunately do not have my copy with me of Blessed Emperor Charles of Austria, Holy Emperor and His Legacy, because I have lent that out to my grandmother. But just his whole life was marked by piety, and the reason why, ultimately, the first reason why he was such a great example of an emperor was because of his piety, which he inherited mainly from his mother. That piety and his religion informed every aspect of his political decision making. And this is sort of what's interesting in comparison to politicians, especially politicians we have here over in the United States, where they claim to be a religion, and they don't advocate for its principles. Um, we have politicians. I mean, JFK was our first Catholic president. Yet, did we see him advocating strongly for the points of Catholic social teaching? Or, do we see Joe Biden advocate strongly for the points of Catholic social teaching? I mean, do we see all the? I'm sure we've had more than one Episcopalian president because, obviously, but were they advocating for, uh, exactly the same social program that the Episcopalians advocate for, or any other denomination you like? No, not particularly. I mean, their religion didn't inform every aspect of their decision making. But with Blessed Emperor Karl, it did. He was a Catholic through and through, which is why he's in heaven. But you know, so that informed his decision making. Also, not saying that all Catholics automatically go to heaven, but anyways, no, I mean, and that is why, first and foremost, besides his innate gifts, and is why he was such a good emperor. And really, if it hadn't been, and if he was in charge earlier, he probably wouldn't. Europe would have been in a much different position because he was against the alliance with Germany, and he was sort of against all these other entanglements. He preferred a more if I remember correctly, he really did want Austria to be free of German influence, because essentially by the time the war was over, Austria was was basically reduced to a German puppet, and not under the Kaiser, mind you, who he did have a great deal of admiration for as a friend, but under the military, essentially the military government that was running things with Hindenburg and whatnot. So yeah, apparently there was even fears that if Austria decided to pursue a more independent foreign policy, Germany would just invade. And given that the military was essentially under Imperial German control, there wasn't much they could do about that. But
The thing that I find quite remarkable about his life was his devotion to the Sacred Heart as well as to the Eucharist. As I mentioned at the top, he was allowed to have the Eucharist in his home when he was in exile at the Summer Palace in Madeira, Portugal in the winter. The house was not furnished for the opposite season's lodgings, so it was kind of cold there. So it was it was remarkable that such a man of such esteem, of such power and prestige, did as we all ought to do, and that is to accept our crosses with grace and love for our Lord. He had a very heavy cross to bear. He not only could not see his children for the longest time because of his exile, but he could not return to his native Austria. And after his exile, he never returned. That, for someone that ruled, getting thrown out of your own homeland has got to be the heaviest cross I could ever imagine.
and especially for sorry to interject, but especially for the people of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, how they had to suffer as a result of it, and all lawful authority being absent. I know, I know we're not even 20 minutes, 15 minutes in, and I had to bring up the Jacobite thing. But there is an old Jacobite song called "There'll Never Be Peace Till Jamie Comes Ham," and minus, I mean, if you just swap out James the Third with Blessed Emperor Karl, the lyrics fit perfectly well. And especially even today, looking at the modern remains of what was at one point the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the church is in ruins, the state is in jars, delusions, oppressions, and murderous wars. We dare not will tell it, but we can what's to blame. There'll never be peace till Jamie comes hame. And Austria, I mean, given the rather pro um, LGBT agenda shared by some of the Austrian bishops that their German cousins are, pushing. You could definitely say that the church in Austria is in somewhat of a sorry state, as is in a lot of places. But and the Austrian government certainly isn't a shining example of what a state should aspire to be. But I mean, that's what you get for having the Social Democrats in charge for a while.
We will
And
be, we will be excuse me. We will be. I find it just a quick aside here. We will be doing a special on Good Friday, which is April 15th. We'll be doing a special show commemorating the Battle of Culloden, which that week's podcast will be released on Saturday instead of Monday because the 16th is the anniversary of the Battle of Culloden. We will be discussing the Battle of Culloden on our episode, which is recorded on Good Friday, April 15th. And just
and for the benefit of the YouTube audience, the time may be subject to change, which we record. Just to let you know.
anyway, and
I mean, our YouTube audience or Discord audience.
yeah, yes. And the other thing about Charles that I find remarkable, and Charles Colon has spoken about this on the Off Menu podcast, that he grants so many boons to Americans that seek his intercession. And I find that to be remarkable because it was largely the American government that essentially led the charge to get the old kings out. I just think that is sort of I can't really put a finger on my reaction when I first heard Mr. Colomb say that, other than, wow.
I mean, I get this talk more in a moment, but I mean, it is. I mean, American foreign policy. I mean, I gave a little talk about that, quoting from another one of Mr. Colomb's books, Puritan's Empire, about how we try to, get the monarchy out of place in Greece, and how we may or may not have rigged the Italian referendum for the establishment of a republic. We totally did. No, anyways, I have no proof, but anyways, no, I mean, it's just that this thing with American foreign policy has always been that we are the best and the brightest. Our ideas are always the best, and whatnot. And I'm not saying that everything that that America is from a legal standpoint is necessarily bad. A lot of what we have that's good was rooted in the old English common law that we inherited from the British. But but this sort of, I want to say, semi-narcissistic tendencies on behalf of our leaders, and this phobia towards monarchical institutions of any kind, given that essentially our national ethos, even though it's not necessarily strictly true, is king bad, revolts against king, happy republic, happy days are here again, even though that wouldn't come around until a few centuries later. But and that's essentially our national ethos. It's like we're free and whatnot, despite the fact that our government is has more authority over us than George III would have ever had or wanted. But okay. uh, don't you just love, I don't know. I don't know.
It,
It's just,
it's like his legacy, I think, and a special guest for next week can shine a bit more light on everything, but his legacy to me is the kind of monarch that every single monarch should live up to and look up to, instead of people like, let's say, George the First, which wasn't really George the First, but you get my drift. The It's remarkable. Like, how many miracles has Blessed Karl wrought on those who have prayed for his intercession? It has to be at least one because he's been beatified, I'm sure.
and there is a second, one which has been approved for his canonization, but I think that if I remember correctly, the cause for canonization was sort of stalled because, or canonization to sainthood was sort of stalled because, uh, pandemic and stuff, and everybody thought, and back in 2019, everybody thought the world was gonna, die because we had absolutely no idea what was going on because the Chinese weren't telling us anything, and I don't know. Let's get off Corona. Just
Absolutely,
yeah. So
absolutely.
Agatha, you haven't had a chance to speak in a while. Do you want to shift the topic of into another area of Blessed Karl's life, or do you want to keep going, or what do you want to do?
I don't know why, but my microphone wasn't working for some reason. I've been kind of laughing along and providing additional commentary this whole time, but apparently my mic's been cut off. Like I was going to say, brilliant. Just switch the topic of conversation from something I actually know something about
All
into
right. well. I mean, it is April Fool's Day. I mean, do,
yeah,
we can't. And besides, it's you're from Alaska. Uh, it's cold up there. I mean, you understand why we had to switch the topic off the pandemic. You can see with those two reasons.
I mean, if you're going to mention anything about why you'd switch the topic off the pandemic before switching to me, I think you would mention my profession first.
Well, yeah, but then also the fact that you like bread and I mean all these other things are conducive to switching the topic off the pandemic.
Oh, very well, if you must insist.
I mean, if you want to talk about the pandemic, I mean, no
I
one's stopping you.
I
Remember,
I
I
would be
remember I
more than
do.
happy to, but you've already expressed to me that you want me to discuss a particular different subject, which isn't the pandemic, so now I have to think of something. You're
Well,
kinda
if
putting
you
me on the
really,
spot here in front of
if you
all of
can
our lovely
relate,
viewers and
uh,
listeners.
okay, if you can relate the pandemic to Blessed Emperor Karl in some way,
Pray to Blessed Emperor Karl and ask for his intercession to get us out of this thing. We're almost there, we're on the home stretch.
he actually did it. I like how I turned my head as if I was facing a live studio audience. He actually did it.
I mean, come on, you gotta give me something harder than that.
Monarchist Minute is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
It's not. I wish it was,
Do,
but it's
do, do, do,
not.
do, do, do.
We would need our own theme song if we were going to do a live studio audience.
Something borrowing the tune from When the King Enjoys His Own Again. I like that tune.
Hmm. I've never
Yes,
heard that
this
tune. We'll have to do a special one of these weeks where we just listen to some of the tunes of various
yesteryear that are in the public
monarchies.
domain
Yes,
because I did we ever do remind me, did we ever do anything on copyright law?
I believe we did.
Oh, by the way, Agatha, this is your time to think of this is your time to think of
I,
something
I, I
for
figured.
okay. Um yeah, so yeah, the flow of the podcast is sort of interrupted when there aren't more than 3 people here, but hopefully we'll get some reinforcements soon.
Eventually.
Eventually, perhaps.
Eventually.
Right, so you were going to say something there, Aiden?
I mean, talking about Emperor Karl some more. Surprisingly, I don't know very much about him, other than the circumstances around his death and the very very brief overview of his life.
I read his book. That was an obscure patent reference, so you know.
Sure,
I
I
mean,
didn't
hey,
touch it.
I can relate that. Archduke Otto, his son, and one of his brothers served with the Austrian resistance during the war. After there was a lot of speaking of American foreign policy, so there was like this Austrian exile legion or unit or whatever that was going to be formed and under American command to go out and fight the Nazis or whatever. And then apparently there was political pressure to get that done away with because obviously we can't have a bunch of monarchists serving with the U.S. Army.
Right.
We can't have that. But also I think there was also a little bit of maybe there's also some division in the unit, or maybe I'm also confounding that with what there was in Paris, because there was a lot of people pre-war Austrian expats in Paris before the war, and they were kind of divided between monarchist and like basically communist, because Um, speaking of the guy who stabbed, what was his name? Rainer, or was I thinking of some other guy from Germany? But anyways, the guy who stabbed Emperor Karl in the back and took over and created the Austrian Republic. When the Nazis came in, he told all of the members of his party to vote for the Nazis, and then he offered his services to them, but the Nazis wouldn't take him because they thought he wasn't useful for anything. And then as soon as the communists come in, he switches sides again, and he becomes the president of Austria post-war. So, and people still like him. It's like, yeah, the guy who collaborated with the Nazis and the communists. That's the guy I want leading my nation.
Hmm.
The 20th century is so stupid.
Yes, it is. Although there is one thing that came out of the 20th century that wasn't entirely bad. Sliced toast.
Yes, sliced toast. The absolutely excellent thing that goes on sandwiches. Made by the Earl of Sandwich.
Wait. You put toast on your sandwiches? So you like take a piece of bread, take a piece of toast, and then put another piece of bread? What are you doing?
I don't put toast between two pieces of bread.
Why are you
Well,
making toast sandwiches there, Victor?
This is the thing, right? Okay, this is the thing. Most of our audience is American, understandably so. But for anyone with English who has English as not a first language, even we, as I just butchered that last sentence, even we mess up our own language sometimes, and it can be quite enjoyable. And this is why you should always double check your punctuation to make sure you're saying what you're saying when you're typing things down, and make sure you structure your sentences clearly when you're speaking out loud. Because otherwise, you get easy jokes at your expense made by an Alaskan nurse who um, who thinks that sliced bread is is the only good thing that came out of the 20th century, when clearly, the absolute joy that was the VCR was the second most important thing that came out of the 20th.
Okay, you got me on VCR. May I propose an alternative, however? Electric guitars.
Ooh,
Well, what
that's
about
nice.
okay? As much as I love analog, what about the way that you enjoy the electric guitar when you have your compact disc and the compact disc changer, which can have up to 5 compact discs at one time going around in a carousel? I mean, that's up to 5 hours of CD quality music, which I hear used to be very high tech. I never had a CD changer. I have one now, but I never had one growing up.
While the FM radio wasn't invented in the 20th century, it was patented first in the 20th century.
All right. Given that there's only 3 of us and Blessed Emperor Karl, this is a much more thorough discussion. Do you guys just want to keep going on our miscellaneous 20th century technological tangent for a while until someone else shows up?
No objection here.
We could probably go off on a little bit, but I think the biggest thing that came out of the 20th century with technology is the car.
Well, technically, the car was a product of the late 19th, but it was very only really only popularized in the 20th.
The mass production of the car didn't begin until the 20th century.
Yes,
with the Model T Fords in the I want to say early 1920s.
Yes.
I do like Ford's business model actually, because well, there were some things about him being an anti-Semite and anti-Catholic, which it's like, but bruh. Anyways, apparently, when he learned that people wanted to like finance the Ford Model T, or Ford was actually going to start like having financing options, he like started ranting because he absolutely hated the concept of that. He's just like, okay, pay for it when you have the money, which is very respectable. Dave Ramsey moment. But anyways, let's see. What else? The 8-track, which sort of helped pave the way. I don't know why I keep cooking with this pen that gets in the way of Mike, but the 8-track, it helps. It didn't exactly pave the way necessarily for the compact cassette, but it was along the similar lines. Although if it was stereo, you're really only getting 4-track because 2 tracks playing the same thing. I don't really like stereo. I mean, stereo's fine and all, but I could take it or leave it. What do you guys think?
Well, we have something called surround sound now.
I don't want more than 2 dimensions of sound.
You don't?
What?
You don't want to be immersed in whatever media you're consuming?
I mean, okay. I mean, for music, for music, I mean, I guess, but I have some vivid memories. I used to go through headphones like that. Now for mobile use, I have these Apple AirPod, or not AirPods, whatever the wired ones, whatever they call it. There's some sort of pod. They're not AirPods or
whatever ones just come with your iPhone.
Oh, they don't even do that anymore.
Really?
No.
I haven't bought an iPhone in so long.
Yeah, well, so my older sister, she's like, oh, it's like you need a phone or whatnot, and if my cell phone died, like I would be mildly inconvenienced because sometimes I use it to like talk to you people with when I'm out of the house, or maybe I'll use it to Google a quick fact or whatever. But I really don't need this. But whatever. Anyways, point being, my sister is like, okay, so you need this, and so she gets me the iPhone SE. Technically, the iPhone SE 2, the original iPhone SE was a few years ago. Anyways, and it comes with a charging cord, not even the charging brick, right? Just the charging cord, and it doesn't even come in with the pack-in air or head pods or ear pod. I think they're called ear pods, right? That they used to give you, and it's like it's like these are $30, right, from Apple's web store. Now, don't get me wrong, they're actually. It's a good thing I'm not like my hearing isn't that great. I mean, it's fine, but my hearing isn't like audiophile level. So these sound really good to me. I really like these. But I ain't paying no $30 to buy another pair of these. Okay, I just got these from my next door neighbor for free because she didn't use them, and I was rummaging through a drawer looking for a cable because her stupid wireless printer doesn't, or maybe it was another time, but her stupid wireless printer doesn't want to work, so I had to use a cable. I hate printers.
And other stories about how you can get an ear infection.
Well, actually, they were brand new. She never used them.
Oh, like they were still sealed in their package and
They're
everything?
still sealed. She has this drawer of cables, which is very respectable. I mean, I highly condone. I think everybody should have a drawer of cables.
Everyone
And
should have a drawer of just random crap. You never
yeah,
know when it's going to come in handy.
yeah, we have in my house we have we never had a drawer of cables, but we had a box with sewing needles, but that also for whatever reason became our box of cables. And I found because I got
That
into
sounds safe.
okay, we're very I mean.
Charles, do you need me to come to your house and do a home health inspection?
Okay, it's fine. Just because we keep our asbestos nice and open in the open air doesn't mean that we're any less safe than you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What's the
Okay.
lead concentration of your pipes, just out of curiosity?
Well, it's a good.
I mean, you're a monarchist, so it can't be that high, but still.
Yeah. Uh. Well, the test said. Well, you know what? We're not going to talk about this. How about your water, huh? How clean is your water?
I get it from I get it from a well and run it through a reverse osmosis filter. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, okay, you know what? I see you laughing, Victor, but you're from Baltimore. Surely you don't have clean water.
On the contrary, I do have some clean water. We like to
Yes.
keep that water. We remember we get our water from the Chesapeake Bay and the Susquehanna River. The Chesapeake Bay is brackish water, so we have to filter it anyway. It gets
Well,
filtered before coming to us.
well,
Or so they say.
yeah, that's what the government want. Hey, I could actually use that legitimately. That's what the government wants you to think. Okay, okay, so maybe you both had me beat on water, but surely you can't beat me on energy. I mean, think about it, Aiden. I mean, your guys are known for your oil. I'm sure you're burning very unclean fuel.
We're also known for our liquefied natural gas production.
Well, Vic, surely
And that's
you
not even
can't
getting
top me
into
on
the
that.
fact that about 50% of the nation's hydroelectric dam potential and about 90% of its tidal energy generation potential are in my state. If we wanted to, there's some pretty reliable sources of clean energy right there that we could smack into Alaska and turn it into a basically power generation facility for the whole nation.
Well,
King Charles Column, great ideas if he's listening for his State of the Week facts on Alaska.
yeah, well, it seems that uh it seems they're going to be going through all of New England because Vincent just is in a New England mood. Anyways, Mr. Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House. Anyways, I don't know why I called him Vincent as if I knew the guy. Anyways, I don't know. It's like yeah, I mean, hey, I think he's part Slovak, so I mean, and I'm part Slovak, so hey, somewhere along the line we're bound to be distant cousins. So
Very distantly, presumably.
yeah. I mean, hey, we're all. I mean, although technically we could all come to the next family. I mean, technically you could all come to the next family reunion, given that we all have Adam and Eve as our distant ancestors. So where do you want to set the time and place?
Found family is still important. I mean, if I were to have people over to a barbecue, I'd probably pick my friends sooner than I would pick a lot of my blood relatives, you know?
Ditto. But let's see. But we're getting away from technological. I need to one up you guys. Okay, so you've wait, Vic. Where does your power come from? Where's Baltimore to get its power from? You guys got some coal mines in West Virginia that you use for your electrical generation. Oil refineries in the Gulf. Come on.
I have no idea.
Well, I'll tell you where we get our power up in Michigan. We get it
He's
from.
in Baltimore, right? Probably from the souls of the virgins that are sacrificed to power DC.
Oh!
All right. Well, I'll tell you where we get our power in Michigan. When it isn't overcast for a week, like it's been all here. See, there you go, butchering the language. It's been overcast for an entire week over here. So release this, from Monday onwards. So solar panels are essentially all dead. So I mean that's fine. We get our power from creepy wind turbines. And I don't know, we just get our power from wherever.
Yay.
I mean, I don't know.
So
We had
let's
some good wind gusts today, so I mean that they must have been working if there was any in the right area.
Oh, and in
Alright.
case you weren't feeling completely inferior based off of where you live yet, Charles, I can go hunting whenever I want.
Well, yes, but we could run into deers on the on the side of the on the road whenever we want. Just gotta make it look like an accident.
Yeah, we could do that with moose. It would probably total your car, but we could do that with moose up here.
Yeah, deer is gonna total your yeah, I don't know.
Have you ever
Hitting an
seen
animal
a moose like in person?
No, and I imagine they're a lot bigger than a deer, but but yeah, deer is gonna
Let
mess
me
up
give
your
you
car.
some context. Take your average what kind of cars do you have down south? Priuses. Take your average Prius. I imagine everyone down in the lower 48, that's what we call people from the non-Alaska and Hawaii states. I like to imagine that everyone down there drives a Prius, because of
Nope.
course you do.
How dare
So,
No.
so, take your average Prius. A moose is about as tall as two Priuses stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, that is very tall.
All right, but I gotta trump. I have to trump you up, guys. Sometime. Let's see. Do you have
If you don't
walls?
ride a dog sled to get to work every day, can we even be friends? That's my question.
And I
I'm
would like
allergic,
to
but okay.
Oof.
anyway, I would like to express the supremacy of the Maryland blue crab as delicacy. Why?
You fool! You have activated my trap card.
Trap card.
Behold, the Alaskan king crab.
I mean, you gotta hand it to it, Victor. I mean, we are a bunch of monarchists. So, I mean, we're naturally going to be inclined towards the king crab.
You've never had a Maryland blue crab.
I've
You've
never
never
had
had
any
an
crab.
Alaskan king crab.
The
I
only
actually
crustacean
have
I've
had
had
an
is shrimp.
Alaskan. I've actually have had an Alaskan king crab.
Was it
The
fresh?
Maryland blue crab is superior.
Was it a
Was
fresh
it
Alaskan
fresh?
king crab?
I have absolutely no idea.
Then probably not, given that it was probably in Maryland.
Well, yeah.
And nothing beats the traditional, the amazing, the pungent Old Bay seasoning.
Well, actually,
Old
I
Bay
can trump
seasoning
you
is
guys.
pretty good.
I can trump you guys on this. I can't prove it to you right now because I gave up pop for Lent. But have you guys heard of a little beverage called Verner's?
No.
No, I can't say I have.
All right. Well, it's a very Midwestern thing. It's the oldest continually produced ginger ale in the world. It's not the first because I don't know. It's a little. It's very popular in Michigan, obviously, because that's where it's from. Some of the other Midwestern states, and also Florida, because a lot of older Michiganians retire down there for some reason. We will get you back. Well, as once I assume the governorship and have a return to Michigan policy, where I will force all the Michigan expats to return home and work in the GM mines. But anyways, vote for me, 2026. I think we have our election and we have our governor elections in off years.
Is there not an age requirement for governor in?
I don't know. There probably is. I'll just cheat my way in.
Because I know there's some
What?
states that don't have an age requirement. There's some states where there have been like 14, 15-year-olds who ran for governor and almost won.
The state of
Interesting.
American politics.
I mean, I don't imagine
Meanwhile-
they'd be any worse than who actually got elected.
Hey, do we want to let
Meanwhile,
Bohemia up here?
Meanwhile, we've got people.
Yeah, we got Darth Calhoun, and I think because his their profile pictures are a little similar, I think we'll let Bohemia up here too. Finally, we can talk now. Darth, you're from Colorado, right?
No, we're from
No,
Montana.
Montana. Okay. And Bohemia, where are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. So, unfortunately, Darth, we are in this interesting position where we are Northerners, but not as northern as Aiden over here. So what we need to do is we need to prove the supremacy of the upper lower 48 against these Southerners over here and Aiden.
Oh,
You don't have to
okay.
prove the supremacy over the South to me. Let me
It's too
rephrase
hot
that.
down there.
You don't have to.
Anyway.
You don't have to prove to me that the northern contiguous United States are superior to the southern contiguous United States. I already agree with that.
Let's move back to Kaiser Karl, shall we?
Okay, I guess.
Just to make my statement on the South, my only experience is in Missouri, and Missouri is called misery for a reason. So I hate the South.
And Missouri is not the South. You should know that.
I went
It
to.
is to me.
I went to Texas one time. Visited my cousins down there. Actually, I didn't like Texas. It was too warm for me. So we were on the day that I arrived. It was a rainy day. It was about, I think, 55 degrees Fahrenheit, of course. And I was sitting around in my shorts and my t-shirt and sitting out in the rain. It was a light rain. It wasn't too heavy. And one of my cousins came out and yelled at me, "Hey, put on a coat and some actual pants. You're gonna get hypothermia out there." And I just gave him the most deadpan stare I have ever given anyone in my life. Because 55 degrees is not gonna give me hypothermia.
We
I
call
can
that
assure you
short
of that.
weather.
That is shorts and t-shirt weather for me. That's like
That is
your
nothing.
average spring day up here.
Like,
And they
that
were
is
acting
nothing.
like it was the middle of winter.
Oh man, it's just. I mean, before yeah. I guess. Does anybody have anything to say about the supremacy of their own particular state before we move back to Blessed Emperor Karl? Because now we have enough people to actually properly discuss him.
So
All I gotta
Montana,
say-
Montana is the
Well-
superior state because one, there is very low income tax, virtually no property tax, and no sales tax. So get your libertarian paradise.
Maryland was founded as the Catholic colony. Checkmate. Anyway, back to Kaiser
Wait,
Karl.
Bohemia needs to make the case for Georgia, though.
All I gotta say is
Exactly.
that, all I gotta say is, if we ever seceded, I think we'd be fine, nutrition wise.
We're listing all these great reasons.
And I would make
And
a
you're
constitutional
like-
monarchy out of it.
We could feed ourselves. It's not a particularly high bar to set.
I mean,
Well,
that's also
I mean, for
states
certain
like
states, yeah.
Montana.
I mean, if you look at other states, well, I guess we beat them in certain respects.
Well, yeah. I mean, but with Michigan, when it's not crippling, when it's not the hollowed out remains of industry and once prosperous towns, it's essentially cornfields and wheat and other agrarian products.
Anyway,
So
back to Kaiser
let's
Karl.
return. Okay, so we'll let
Go
Darth
ahead.
or Bohemia, whichever one gets to beat each other up, since their profile pictures are looking particularly stylish this evening. We'll let them give their thoughts on the Blessed Emperor.
Well, I wish he was canonized by now, but I can't get what I wish all the time. I'm actually not as knowledgeable as I want to be. I'm yet to read the book from what's that author's name? But the one about oh, I thought we weren't okay. Yeah, yeah, I didn't read that book yet. So I very lacking on a lot of key details on Kaiser Karl. Besides, I know that he died on an island in Switzerland, in
Portugal,
exile.
Portugal.
Oh, Portugal. Oh, I thought he went to Switzerland.
He
Yeah,
did, but
that's
then
He
he went to
did, but
Portugal.
then he was resent to Portugal.
Oh yeah, that's how shoddy my knowledge is. But yeah, I'm saddened that Horthy betrayed him in the coup against the Hungarian Republic, and didn't restore the monarchy like he promised he would. Um, it's sad that he had to die in such a lonely state, penniless, not befitting of a true prince of the Habsburg name. His descendants today are doing their blessed work in the Hungarian government, and I think Prince George von Habsburg is he is the ambassador to the Holy See for Hungary. So,
Edward. That's Edward, I think.
oh, that's Edward. I could have swore it was George, but I mean, yeah.
Edward
So,
might, Edward might be the Austrian ambassador. I don't know.
yeah, but either way, the Habsburgs are still involved with their people. They're very popular. In fact, the Habsburgs they strike fear into the Austrian Republic every time they do anything, even semi-publicly.
Yeah. They are a great example, I think, of how a a noble family should act when they've lost when they've lost their rightful crowns. They should. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm still a Jacobite. I'm going to be a Jacobite to my dying day, in all likelihood. But the current our lawful king across the water ain't doing much to advance the cause of monarchism in Bohemia or.
You mean Bavaria?
Uh, yeah, man, my head.
I mean,
Bavaria.
You're
I,
I
gonna
mean,
I,
be a
I used to,
Jacobite. You're gonna have to get that right.
I mean, how dare you get my favorite realm that I'm ethnically from wrong? Um, uh,
it's sort of also bad for me because we have in Michigan we have Frankenmuth, which was founded by a bunch of Bavarians. Unfortunately, they were the cringe Lutheran minority as opposed to the base Catholic majority. So, but there are a
yeah,
couple Catholic churches out there.
unfortunately, that's the problem with Bavarians in America. Most of them were the Lutheran cringe exiles, while the Catholic loyalists mostly stayed in well, Bavaria. But the Wittelsbach are also like a great example for Catholic monarchy, and I honestly think it's a template of of what all Catholic monarchies should be. But like Prince Max, he is typically also within the public sphere of Bavaria a lot, unlike the heir currently Prince Franz. But Prince Max, like he attends many festivals. He's in the public eye a lot. He's often greeted as Your Majesty, which is pretty
It's
fun.
really weird because he has an older brother.
I mean, he is, but most Bavarians don't like Franz, and they want Max. If the monarchy was restored, and there's actually, if Bavaria did become independent of the Federal Republic of Germany, most likely they would have they would have a referendum on the republic or monarchy question, and I would suspect the monarchy would win in Bavaria's case.
Yeah.
Well, we can't know for sure.
I mean, I'm just doing an educated guess, but
I know.
that's
I know you are.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how?
but in Austria right now, like the Austrian Republic hates it whenever the Habsburgs do anything public because they're always cheered on by adoring crowds. And several polling does suggest that a plethora of the Austrian population are active supporters of the restoration of the monarchy, which the Republic does not like at all. So they keep on denying the question of a referendum because they know they would lose.
yeah. I mean, and I mean even in the immediate post-war, I think it was Rayner. I mentioned this before Darth. It was Rayner, right? Who was the one who was the main figure in Austrian Republican politics from the fall of the empire, even until after
So yeah, it's
the
called.
guy who collaborated with both the Nazis and the communists.
Yeah, that's because he was If you know anything about German politics or like the German-speaking world politics, I think he was the leader of the SPD party in Austria or the Social Democratic Party.
Yeah, I
Um,
wanted to say SPD, but I wasn't sure if it was that or some other
well,
more extreme.
it technically goes by a different name because it's the Austrian Social Democratic Party and not like the SPD like in Germany, but they are a Social
Maybe like
Democratic
the
Party.
OFD. I think it might be the OFD. Maybe,
Yeah,
I don't know.
but
Österreich, something.
But either way, the SPD or Social Democrats in the German-speaking world are always known as like the German Traitor Party. They'll always collaborate with anybody. It doesn't matter who they are, and they always simp for communist movements. That's why during the Spartacus revolt in Germany, effectively the ranks were made up of the hardcore Social Democrats and then some communists, but the Social Social Democrats allowed the communists to take the reins of power in the revolt because they wanted them to be the vanguard for a revolution.
Yeah, but
The SPD is always a traitor party. Remember
yeah,
that.
I think at least according to Wikipedia, which as we all know is the source and summit of all knowledge. And if
As
it's
it
not
should be.
Wikipedia, as if it's not on Wikipedia, if Wikipedia says so, it is. Um, the Social Democratic Party of Austria is abbreviated SPO with the two little dots, which I keep forgetting what those are called. For some
It's a special a vowel. It's like os. If that's how it's pronounced. O. It's like a long
SPO.
O. It's like
Okay.
it's a long O sound. Like say when you have the two dots over, it's like you just emphasize that vowel and make it longer. Essentially,
The SPO.
I
Anyway,
guess.
The
anyways,
or yeah,
the SPO.
no, the SPO, or as we would say here, the SPO.
Oh, Ohio. Anyways, but what I was gonna say, I mean, Rayner was the one who wanted to. He removed all the noble titles, so I think in Germany the nobles were still allowed to use their proper titles. Correct me if I'm wrong. After the
So
fall of the
so
empire,
in Weimar,
in
they
Weimar
were
Germany,
in Weimar like on the official like registries, they only allowed for the suffix von, which just means of in German, and they weren't allowed to put their noble title on any like government registries or anything. But
but
but in like civil societies, they weren't restricted from using their actual noble title, unlike in Austria where the SPD took full control and they completely banned any aristocratic titles from being even mentioned in public life for the longest time, and led to the Austro-fascist party to get a lot of support by the nobility.
well, I can't remember who because I lent out my copy of Blessed Emperor Karl, Holy Emperor and His Legacy, but but this one noble found a little creative way around the problem. So he has little cards or whatever where it's like blah 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 blah. Ennobled by Charlemagne, 794 or whatever. Denobled by Rayner, 1922, or whatever that particular act was put in place. Which, I mean, it's those moves that aren't necessarily um affect the technical letter of the law thing, but just those little signs of resistance are, oh, they're just so great.
I, I mean, like my opinion of like after reading a lot of let's just say traditionalist writers is when they always talk about like the bourgeoisie are always envious of the nobility. That's why they want to strip them down and lay them bare, and that's why they try to ban aristocracy, ban nobility of any type, ban all titles of honor that their family had earned for literally like hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years prior. So it's this is why you keep the bourgeoisie as far away from the reins of power as possible, people. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's
They only have the ability to destroy.
yeah, I mean, actually, I was reading this sci-fi book. It's called The Stainless Steel Rat. It's a pretty good book. It's a sort of a crime thriller thing. It's an enjoyable read. It's a little unclean in places, but but
As
but
is
in
most media today.
yeah, well, it's a lot less explicit than a lot of stuff. But anyways, um, in it, so some spoilers for it, so you might want to skip ahead, like maybe like 3 minutes, if you're going to consider reading the sci-fi book that came out at least at the latest at the 90s. It probably came out before that. I don't know. But
It's not
anyways,
a spoiler if it's over 20 years old.
well, at any rate, it's a very flash read. But the guy the main character is trying to go after and arrest this uh girl who's like a psychopathic maniac. So he disguises himself as one of the he picks the poorest noble area um of the like one of the and he's essentially disguised himself as the second child of this poor noble family. They don't even use the word count. It's or duke. It's a made up title that's presumably lesser than. And he joins this. I mean, and as part of his ploy in order to arrest this woman, he joins this rebellion against the government. And even though he has no interest in it whatsoever, and the whole rebellion was just a power play by this crazy woman, it actually kind of sounded like cool from the perspective of how that particular planet he was on, the politics worked, because the politics were sort of we're sort of similar to a lot of places nowadays where power was being increasingly centralized, or at the very least, the capital was seen as the only like important place, and that was developing rapidly, but the rest of the country was left out and stuff. So you had this nobleman who was just acting, and he went on about how his family had been cheated out of lawful titles or whatnot, and it's like I know this rebellion is just a ploy is just a tool by the author in order to convince us that this woman wants power and whatnot. But it's like I'm into it. It's like heck yeah, man. Let's get rid of these corrupt central bureaucracies. I mean,
Yeah,
I dig it.
down with the bourgeoisie, up with the aristocracy.
Yeah. Hey, that rhymed. No, I mean it's like it's like it's like they turned our country into a bunch of pacifists and whatnot, and it's like I mean, I know this guy's just being controlled, and he probably wouldn't have come up with these plans if it wasn't for this woman whispering words into his ears. But it's like he's literally me. I mean,
Uh,
I don't know, but
it's an uncomfortable moment. Although it's really awful when you're reading a biography and you're like, wait, is this me? And it's like somebody you're supposed to hate according to common society. I'm not gonna say names.
yeah, no, I mean that's I mean with a lot of these with a lot of these people, um, they get a lot of stuff right, but they're off slightly in one major aspect of their policy, but that slight deviation makes them completely wrong. I mean, it's sort of like with religion, right? I mean, you have the Catholic Church, but then you have some Protestant churches which are like 99. I mean, you can have like I guess high church Episcopalians who are like 99.99999% correct, but that 0.0001% makes them completely wrong.
You're
you
not in
know,
communion with Rome. How
if you're
dare
not in
you?
communion with Rome, don't. If you don't have apostolic succession, don't waste my time. Um,
That's why I only really recognize the Orthodox outside of Catholicism.
and the lesser Eastern churches that still have valid apostolic succession, but nobody mentions they exist. Although maybe it's just the
Did
fact that
we
we're in the West and we kind of forget that the Eastern Catholics exist half the time.
did we want to sort of wrap things up here?
Yeah. So, apologies, for I guess technically since John or Aiden isn't here anymore. Aiden had to step out. I'm going to be doing the outro. But apologies for this Blessed Emperor Karl tribute not being as thorough as we would have liked it to be.
It will be made up next week with a
Yes,
very special guest.
Yes, assuming all goes to plan. So, yeah. So I guess if Aiden isn't going to be coming back, I'll be doing the outro. But it's a shorter episode.
I was told to ping him when it's time. So.
Oh well, hopefully he'll pop back up. So while we're waiting for him to do that, I will.
Yeah, we will wait for him to do that, and while we await,
Sorry, I couldn't find the button.
push the button. What button? Okay. So,
Aiden, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Yes,
and,
certainly.
well, actually, have the. I know I always call it prayer and outro, but put the outro with the social media stuff. Put that all first, and then do the prayer. So Aiden's plug our social medias.
I don't know.
Just be
Okay,
like
well,
tuned in
all right,
on.
I'll do it then. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to direct your attention to our social media platforms. The links to those are in the description down below. If you would like to join us live, you can join us in our Discord server Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And for those of you that regularly listen to us on YouTube, we will come out with a special episode on Saturday the 16th, which will be recorded on Friday the 15th, which is Good Friday, commemorating the Battle of Culloden. And now, Aiden, would you like to lead us in prayer?
I also have the shameless plug.
Sure.
Don't worry, your channel link will be in the description.
Yes, but for those that wonder about the content of the channel, I interviewed a Russian monarchist fairly recently. It's up on my channel, the full length interview. It's quite long, but might get some entertainment out of it. Besides that, I have nothing else to plug.
All right, Aiden, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Wait,
In
I have
nomine-
something. No, just kidding. Okay. Okay.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Amen.
Almighty God, for the sake of the Sacred Heart of your Son, help us and all nations in our time of need. Take our prayers and sacrifices as an expiation for injustices everywhere. Help us to follow the example of your servant, Karl of Austria, who, despite having suffered indignities, slander, and exile, remained faithful and sought always to do your will. May his fidelity soon bring him to the honor of public veneration as a saint. We ask this through your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, who with you lives and reigns in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, forever and ever. Amen. Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti.
Thank you very much, Aiden. And so, with that, we bid you adieu. And so, until next week with our special guest, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.